It's long been suggested that I do something with the very rare ice spike biome, and I didn't really know how to tackle it, seeing how weird it is. But it's also been suggested that I do something futuristic, so I thought, why not combine the two to create something that looks like this? It looks pretty impressive, but you'd be surprised how easy it is. And that's because all of these spheres are exactly the same. They are decorated slightly differently, and those variations are where I encourage you to kind of come up with some designs of your own. So the first thing is a rather dull thing to do, but I do need to show you exactly how this sphere is made. Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by describing exactly how to make this, because you can see that for yourself here. But what I will do is kind of talk about why this sphere in particular is special. Now, a lot of you know that I don't like doing the whole copy me block for block thing, because I always try to encourage creativity. So if you do want to attempt your own sphere, please, 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 I encourage that. However, for the size of the spike and the roundness of this sphere, this is honestly one of the best shapes you can get. So I, at the same time recommend that you can follow this as well. Anyway, this sphere was not generated via Voxel or World Edit or any other plugin. These were all handmade, because the ones that were generated by Voxel and World Edit, while are, quote, perfect, they don't quite offer the same shape. They don't look perfect. So World Edit will make a perfect 5 radius sphere, but it will look kind of clunky. So this one here is a handmade one, specifically designed to be more circular. That sounds so silly when I'm describing a sphere, but there you have it. That is the entire purpose of this. And trust me, you will get very, very bored of making these spheres over and over again, to the point where after you've made a couple, you could probably do it off by heart. And that's not a bad thing, it definitely speeds up the process. The other thing to talk about with this project is that it's not particularly survival friendly. Now, I know a lot of my builds aren't survival friendly, but this one in particular really isn't, because you need to be able to go up the ice spikes and you'd have to create a whole lot of scaffolding, not to mention that these blocks are not cheap. So it's something else to consider. However, it is definitely doable in survival. So we're about halfway through our sphere right now, so I've got not a lot else to say, so enjoy some nice elevator music while we finish the rest of this sphere. Alright, sorry for that rather boring interlude, but this was absolutely necessary. This exact sphere, as you can see, has a lovely shape to it, and we will be remaking this time and time again throughout this build, so if you find that boring, you may want to ditch this project altogether, because although it looks good, it is a little bit repetitive. So, let's go straight back to the ice spike biome and get started on our futuristic city, now that we know how to make the building block behind it. If you want to check that your sphere is okay, just do a cross on each of the sides. So, we're back. Now, you need to make sure that you've got 3 or more large spikes in relatively close proximity. These 3 are perfect for what we want to do today. You could even include a few more that are on the outskirts. So I've just highlighted each one with a red block. And we are of course going to be in creative, because that makes our lives a lot easier. So we're essentially doing what you just watched along with that elevator music, so I'm not going to dilly-dally, I'm going to speed right through the creation process of our very first sphere. Now, we specifically chose to use the blue clay blocks because it matches the palette and the feel of this ice landscape. And it's the same story for the glass and the iron, both of those match the scenery. We even go on to use some quartz later because again, it all comes together. So we've just created another sphere. Now, what we need to do is attach it to the ice spike, so that does mean you need Silk Touch on a pickaxe to get your hand on some packed ice. If you don't, you could use an alternative block, but it is nice to have some sort of visible support for this sphere, because it can look a bit unbalanced without it. I couldn't think of another way of doing it. I wanted to keep these builds as simple as possible, but the variations surrounding the sphere could go in any way. We decided to increase our surface space by halving the interior, by putting a floor in just under the iron level. And then we added some quartz pillars along with some birch fences to make it look like they've got antennas, and that's what really makes it look futuristic. We also tied in some of the darker clay with the lighter blue to give it a bit more texture. You should be used to that kind of thing on the channel by now. So the last touch on this particular sphere is to put a ring of quartz slab around it to really tie it all together so it seems more solid and less like it's just being held like a staff. This really makes it feel like the whole thing has been solidified, and that's quite important of the atmosphere of the build. So we're going to go and do a bunch more spheres now, which is why I warned you that this may get a little bit repetitive, but you will get faster at making them, and the spheres took us about 5 to 10 minutes each, so overall the entire project took less than an hour to build. You can mix it up every time you do it. You could standardize each sphere to be exactly the same, or you could do what we did in this project, which is to mix it up. We built this sphere at a diagonal to the spike itself. We made sure that it was in line perfectly. It's very important that you get the angle right, or it may end up looking different. You could have it slightly further out or even integrated into the spike. I do want to see some diversity in this project if you wish to undertake it. These are of course just suggestions. These are inspiration. I don't want you to just copy exactly, except the sphere. The sphere is good. But I do want you to take what I've done and make it your own. Really come up with some more ideas, elaborate on it. We had a foot that came out from the stem of the ice spike, which held up this sphere at the diagonal end. We then went and detailed this differently to the other ones, which are all open. We added some quartz pillars and what I like to describe as a quartz cap over the top of the glass. Getting the shape right was a little difficult, but with the use of some slabs, it can look okay in the end. You may even want to consider replacing the glass with quartz if you want that more domed shape that looks natural, but I wanted this to seem more like it was a hard case with the glass still intact. Like I said, this is just one variation of many that you could potentially do on these spheres. There is a lot of opportunity here. On our final spike, we're actually going to make 3 spheres. The first one will be exactly the same as the others, so I'm going to quickly whiz through that. At this stage, we learned how to make these spheres off by heart even without reference, and we can make them fairly quickly, to the point where we could even make them starting from the middle rather than the top or the bottom. So hopefully you get to that stage and it all becomes second nature. For this one on the detailing, we just added a simple cross of quartz slabs over the middle and left the rest open as glass. Because you want these to be inhabitable, you want to let as much light in as possible, and these work out really well. On this one we added 3 spheres, as I said earlier. You need to make sure that you balance them out. You don't want to have 2 on the same side, or even maybe just having them on the opposite side. You need to make sure that they're at different Y coordinates and they are very well planned out so that they don't look weird. So those are the 3 designs for the spheres, that is the block palette that we used, and it all fits and seamlessly enters the weird ice spike biome. There are plenty of seeds out there with them, and I think this ended up looking pretty good. It's a mixture of the let's transform an ice spike and the futuristic house, and I think it's ended up being a project that I'm proud of, but mainly because it's so simple to do. I think anyone could tackle this in creative and get very good results. Whether you'd actually want to live here, because it is a trek all the way to the top of the tower every time, is to be seen. But I think I'll give this project a 4 out of 5. There are a few things that you can do on the interior. This is just an example that we threw together at the last second. There's beds, plenty of storage space, plenty of floor space as well, easy to light up. All in all, it's a pretty good space to use. You could even put a farm here, no worries. Underneath you have more storage space and somewhere to keep your creeper, if you have a pet creeper. Now ideally you want to light this up, because if I was in survival that would have been kablooey and the end of our project today. But overall, I think this has gone fantastically. You can even adapt this even further. Now, I'm all about sending you on a journey to improve what I've made here, but when we were here, we immediately realized that if we wanted to see the other spheres, we really don't get a good view. So maybe creating a balcony, something like this, is a very good idea, especially if it's facing the rest of the town or the city, whatever you want to call it, because it really doesn't impact the overall effect. It actually fits rather nicely. So that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Big thank you to Pearlescent Moon for this, and as a final note, I wanted to have a little bit of an experiment. I know not many of you end up at the end of the videos, and the ones that do have probably already liked it, but I just wanted to see how many likes I can get if I actually ask for it, because I never, ever ask for likes on my video. But if you're here, I just want to test if it makes a difference, you know? If asking for likes makes a difference, if getting loads of likes makes a difference to the video. So if you want to be involved in this video, if you liked it, go ahead and actually press the button. Boy, that feels dirty asking for likes. Don't know why, but I don't enjoy asking for likes. And I promise never to do it again, but let's do an experiment.